Or will he choke again when he faces Randy Arozarena? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the Fifth Chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman. He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state when that light turns red. So don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter. That's right. Welcome to the Fifth Chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We are ready and raring to go for episode 47, even though both your college football program and my college football program, just 5 days before the start of the season, each got some disappointing news today, Dennis.
I must have missed that. What's the disappointing news?
Well, with the University of Michigan, Washtenaw County issued a stay-at-home or shelter-in-place order for all University of Michigan students. They did make an exception for athletics, but all these students at the University of Michigan are not allowed to leave their dorms or residences for the next 2 weeks. And I kind of wonder how that's going to affect them as they get ready for the Minnesota game and, of course, the big rivalry game in 12 days against Michigan State. And then for We Are Penn State, they found out, or I guess they already knew about this, but the world found out that their number one running back, Journey Brown, is likely going to miss the season with an undisclosed medical issue.
You know, I didn't see that about Journey Brown. He's a heck of a back. I know they've got a couple backs there, but yeah, that's huge news. I didn't know that. You know what? Just before we get started, I think the football players across the country, and I know at Michigan, they're already putting themselves in a bubble. It's not like they're out, hanging out with the student body or anything. They do that. They're going to be down for 3 weeks. So I think they've already, as a football program, have been staying away from the rest of the general population.
Yeah, they pretty much have to do so, but yeah, you wonder, if there's a girlfriend or one or two BFFs or a lab partner that they hang out with on a regular basis that is asymptomatic and has the coronavirus on a campus where apparently it's spreading around. How could that affect the team? You wonder. And is there a player or two or three on the team that has it right now that they're not disclosing? So we'll have to see.
We'll see. You know what? They get tested every single day. So you could have a false positive on game day. You could have a false positive the day before. You might be able to get out and if you have it early enough, I'm talking about a false positive, you might be able to pull a Nick Saban. But it's not like you can pull a Nick Saban if it happens on the eve of the game. If it happens this Friday or certainly, on Saturday, it's not like you can do anything about that. You're done. So.
Yeah, definitely want to thank everybody out there who's watching episode number 47 on YouTube, Facebook Live, or Twitch. Also, those listening via the podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. Of course, if you want to listen to it, it is available by 11 p.m. on the day of each show. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show. Dennis will also be reading your feedback during the show via YouTube.
That's how you participate.
That's right. That's how you do it. The feedback is on YouTube. The feedback is on Facebook, and it's on Twitch. Let's take a look at today's book. As you can see in the second chapter, Tua Tagovailoa named the Dolphins starting quarterback. Meanwhile, Jeff Okudah continues to struggle. Did the Lions make the wrong decision? In the third chapter, it's our World Series preview presented by Collyde. And Collyde is something we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in the show as well. But it's a brand new a website and app that is available for you to download right now. We encourage you to download. Here is their website. As you can see, it's available on the Apple Play Store and Google Play. It's an opportunity for you to watch games. It brings the sports bar home to you. And Dennis and I will be hosting later tonight a watch party on Collyde. So for Game 1 of the World Series, that's the only way you're going to be able to communicate with us during Game 1 of the World Series, not via Twitter. We will be exclusively on Collyde, so make sure that you participate. But we got Clayton Kershaw trying to go up against Randy Arozarena and the Rays, Game 1 of the World Series. in the 4th chapter, Kenny Golladay goes on Instagram after the game, after their big win against the Jaguars, and says, "This shit will cost you." We'll tell you why he was saying that. And in the 5th chapter, should Christian Wood be the Pistons' top priority? But then, as usual, we start off with the 1st chapter. And
if I could just jump in before that, tell the people on Facebook to connect in, because I haven't been able to see that. I don't know if that's something with our associate producer there or not. But, yeah, let's get to that 1st chapter.
Yeah, it looks like we should be on Facebook. It says the stream is going, so perhaps
right.
refresh it. But in the 1st chapter, that takes us to the same old Lions. They were 1-3 when they went to Jacksonville on a same old Lions Sunday 2 days ago. And if you remember on Thursday, Dennis, you started laughing and saying, this is when a lot of people say the Lions will do a head fake and win again. They're not supposed to, but I'm not buying that. And you said the Lions were going to lose. I said they'd win thanks to that Patricia push, and fans who wanted them to tank would be disappointed. And that's what happened. The Lions got a double-digit lead as usual, but they didn't blow it. It was a nice, easy, drama-free 34-18 win over the Jaguars. They improved to 2-3. And when you win in dominant fashion, oftentimes that can lead to you believing that the Lions, led by this rocket scientist, have figured it out and they're on their way. They're about to do some amazing things, and perhaps they can turn this season around. And the last place you might find some negativity would be from one of their own, like Duron Harmon. He actually had an interception after the game, and instead of being excited and trying to wave the pom-poms, he was asked after the game if the win was a statement, and here's what he said, as you can see from ProFootballTalk.com. It wasn't necessarily a statement. We just knew we could play better, and we just needed to find a way to play better, and I think we did. Here's the key. I mean, I wouldn't say statement, because doing it for one game means nothing. Doing it for one game means nothing. So, Dennis, what do you think about that comment? Duron Harmon of the Lions, after they get their biggest win of the season in terms of points, say that one game means nothing.
I like Harmon. You know what? He played big against Arizona, and then I like his comments after the game. He better watch himself. Maybe he'll be out, and they'll end up trading him away. If I just had watched the Arizona game and the Jacksonville game this past Sunday, I'd say, hey, man, this Lions defense, they play 4 quarters. They're active on the back end, coming up with picks like against Arizona, and they were really good against the run against Jacksonville. They really shut it down, and they ran the ball really well. They got good blocking grades on PFF, and so there was a lot to be excited about if you had just watched those first 2 games. Unfortunately, they had those other 3 games in there where they blew those leads, and it felt like that opener that the Swift drop was going to come back to haunt them. It still feels like that, and it's Harmon's right, man. This game means nothing. They go out and put a couple more wins together. Well, at least they put themselves in a conversation that they could do something within this division right here. But, one game. Nobody's fallen for one game. Hey, I thought they were going to blow it at the half. I thought they were going to blow it when it was 17-3, even when it was 24-3. And then Jacksonville came back. I was just like everybody else. Probably I wouldn't have surprised me. And you have expect that they were going to blow it. But, Jacksonville's not a good team. And you know what? They were able to at least put themselves in position where maybe if they win 1 or 2 more, it will mean something.
Yeah, in terms of the team making progress, I think Duron Harmon is right. The game does mean next to nothing. I think that the most meaningful part about what happened is that Matt Patricia probably bought himself 2, 3, or 4 weeks, because if you remember back on Thursday, I said that this game against the Jaguars, if they lose it, would be the first opportunity where there might be a realistic chance of Patricia actually getting fired, and that didn't happen. Now that they're 2-3, I doubt if they lose to the Falcons, he'd get fired at 2-4. But this is, it's a silly little victory during the Patricia push. Remember the Patricia push? This is the best time of the year for Patricia against a very bad football team coming off of a bye, when Patricia does his best rocket scientist pencil in the ear coaching, and they did win convincingly. It wasn't against the Packers or the Ravens, but it was a very good win. And for the team they played against, you mentioned the defense they played, particularly against the run. But I think that this is a great comment by Harmon. This is a guy who came from the Patriots, like so many other guys that are on this roster right now, and he has a Patriot attitude. He's less than a year removed from them, and the Patriots never thought that they made a statement by beating the frickin' Jaguars. The Patriots didn't think they made a statement by winning a regular season game against a below 500 team in October. They made statements with 4, 5, 6 game winning streaks. They made statements with playoff wins and Super Bowls. So I think the last guy on that roster to think that they made a statement by winning a game against the Jaguars was Duron Harmon. In their next 4 games, they play Atlanta, Indianapolis, Minnesota, and Washington. If they end up 3-2 in that 5-game stretch or 4-1, then you can talk about potentially making a statement. But if they end up 2-3, or this is the only game in that 5-game stretch that they win, then yeah, it's same old Lions. There's no statement.
Yeah, this team doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. They might not like that and say, hey, each individual season is different. Not when you're in the Lions organization. This happens routinely where you see, the team plays terrible, they get a win, and everybody's like, hey, give them credit. It's like, you know what? How long have you been around watching this organization? The worst one was in 2015 when they started out 1-7. It was like the worst first half of a season that I ever saw. I mean, it was so bad. Everybody should have been fired. It was, and it gets pretty bad, in Lions Kingdom. It was the worst that it ever was. And yet, they had the ugliest game of all time. I think they won at Green Bay for the first time in 25 years, like 13-12. And people are like, yeah, we got the win. It was good getting rid of that curse. But then they won a couple more games, but they were already eliminated. And people are like, yeah, they really got something. At least they're not out of playoffs.
Well, it wasn't just that. They got to I think it was 4-7, and then you had Lions fans in particular, led by Rich Eisen on NFL Network, say, "Well, look at the schedule. They're going to run the table and get to 9-7 and win the division." And they lost the next 2 games to snuff out that. But yeah, you're right. It for a lot of fans, it takes just 1 or 2 wins, and all of a sudden the Slappies are back on board. I haven't seen that with this win.
1 or 2. Like I do think I think most people are looking at it, oh, Harmon's right. I'm not going to get sucked back in. But they beat the Falcons, man. I think they'll be full back on board.
Yeah, especially being back at 500 and with the way the Falcons were able to win against the Minnesota Vikings, putting up all those points with their explosive receivers.
2 road wins. Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. We got some feedback?
Well, let's see. My Facebook is not working. So despite what your associate producer is telling you, I don't believe that it is working, but we do. Guess what? It's from Keith, and I haven't even looked at his topic yet, but I think it's going to apply to chapter number 2. Let's see. What up, fellas? They only won because Josh Allen didn't play. They beat a team they should have beaten. Yeah, I'm with you on that. You know what? If Josh Allen, a player that the Lions could have had if they didn't have that meaningless win against Green Bay, I'm with you on that. Trivia from Keith, who says, do you realize the 7th pick in 2018 and 2019 share the same name? Josh Allen. What are the odds of that? I still hate the Lions prolong the firing of the coach and GM. Keith's talking about Tua. I knew he would be talking about Tua. He always talks about Tua, and Tua is the subject of the 2nd chapter.
Yeah, and on Facebook, Mike says they tanked for Tua without even trying and still managed to screw it up.
Now, that sounds like some Lions stuff there.
All right, Dennis, let's turn the page now to the 2nd chapter.
Yeah, and that gets us to Tua Tagovailoa. He came in last week's game to take a couple snaps, just get a handoff in there. Ryan Fitzpatrick was on the sideline telling everybody to get up and cheer. They did. And then we find out that Tua, the Dolphins are on a bye this week, but when they come out, that'll be week 8, Tua Tagovailoa is going to get the start. The Tua era is going to begin. So, I don't know. I feel like I know where you're going to go with this. I know where Keith is going to go with this. What do you think of Tua? You're Lions fans, and, Okudah was picked. So, it's time to revisit that number 3 overall pick that the Lions had this year, passing on Tua.
Well, look, I think that a lot of Lions fans are going to look at the way that Jeff Okudah's played. I know that going into last weekend, Okudah was ranked 115th out of 115 cornerbacks per Pro Football Focus, and say, well, anybody's better than Jeff Okudah, and that makes sense. I think that a lot of Lions fans are going to just be drooling over Tua because they wanted him to. They wanted him in the first place, and they figure, hey, if Tua is good enough to unseat Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was playing okay football for the Dolphins, then man, we really made a big mistake. I'm not wavering from what I said back in the spring. I thought it was the right decision to go after Jeff Okudah and the wrong decision to go after Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I'll waver a little bit in terms of it was the right decision to go after Okudah because he's looking like one of the worst rookies, or at least a bad rookie, not even first or second or third round pick rookie so far. You wonder if all the cornerbacks were healthy, would he even be playing right now with how poor he's been, with how easy it is to burn him down the field. But I'm not wavering from my belief that Tua Tagovailoa is a talented player who's going to play well, who might even make a Pro Bowl or two, and will be out of the league by 30 years old because I just don't trust that hip injury. It wasn't just a hip dislocation. He also broke the hip bone, and the only apples-to-apples comparison is Dennis Pitta, the former tight end of the Ravens. He fractured and dislocated his hip in 2013. In less than 3 years, he dislocated his hip twice more and then was done for his career. So I look at Tua Tagovailoa as being in the same situation. During that span, when Pitta came back, he made the Pro Bowl and led all tight ends in receiving yards a couple of years. I think it was a year after his second dislocation, but after the third one, he was done. And you think about defensive linemen, defensive tackles, and whatnot falling on Tua Tagovailoa with that fragile hip. I think he could be a talented player who's just not going to play very long.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. I was a huge Tagovailoa fan at Alabama, and I think that he's got it. That magic. He's just a pure pocket passer, and he can move a little bit as well. He's athletic. I loved him, man. His anticipation throws, all of that. So I was a real Tua truther. I wanted the Lions to draft him, but because of the pandemic and the Lions not being able to get a look at that hip, he at least was going to have to run, and he didn't. And instead, late, he was just putting out these hype videos, and I was scared. I would have been scared away if I was the Lions for that. If I couldn't get my medical personnel in there to be able to get my hands on him, and for him to be able to run, he didn't. I think at the end he figured out hey, the Washington football team, the Lions might pick you if you go out there and run, or you'll fall to the Dolphins or Chargers. You take the pick. You want to go to L.A.? Do you want to go to Miami? Do you want to go to Washington? Do you want to go to Detroit? Just don't do anything. So I can't blame the Lions for not taking him because of the injuries that you're talking about, because they weren't able to get in there and take a look at him. Now, the one thing Bob Quinn really played that awful. He could have gone in there as soon as they had the number 3 pick and told Matt Stafford, look, we're going to act like we're going to take a quarterback here. It's what we got to do. We can play this game. We can pick up more selections here. So for the next month or two, when you hear people saying that we're going to take them, you can just do whatever you want. We love you, and you can say whatever you want. We're just doing this to try to accumulate more picks. Instead, Bob Quinn came out, we love Matt Stafford, and then, but we're open to trading the pick. They boxed themselves in. It was an example of Bob Quinn not knowing how to operate a draft and not knowing what to say to maximize the value with a number 3 pick. But I can't dog him for not taking Tua because I wouldn't have done it myself.
Yeah, the part that's going to be really hard is obviously the Dolphins have a bye week this week, and then they play after that. If we get into, let's say, early to mid-November, and we see Tua Tagovailoa performing the same way that Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are for their particular teams, if they're leading their teams to, if he's leading his team to either wins or he's leading them to competitive losses where perhaps the defense is blowing it, but he's putting up 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, and giving them a chance to score a game-tying or game-winning touchdown with under 2 minutes to go. If he's doing that, then I think a lot of Lions fans are going to be most Lions fans aren't thinking about the injury anyway, but I think a lot of Lions fans are going to look at that, and if they see that kind of production matching what Burrow and Herbert are doing, they're going to say this is ridiculous, particularly if Jeff Okudah continues to struggle. He was a little bit better against the Jaguars, but I continue to be just stunned at how he seems to have lost his athleticism. I get that he had a hamstring injury but that was about a month ago now that he's been playing since he's come back from the hamstring injury. If he's still looking like he's running on 1.5 legs and he's getting juked by nothing moves by wide receivers, getting burned on a regular basis, I think a lot of Lions fans are going to say, well, whether it's Tua or anybody else, we made the wrong decision.
Well, they're all good points. He was embarrassing in that game against Green Bay. I mean, he looked like an undrafted rookie who should have been cut. Instead he was the number 3 overall pick. The hard part, if you're a Lions fan, you think that Tua's going to be, a Hall of Famer and that Okudah's going to be a bust. And there's reasons to think about both of those things right now. Timmy P, good to see him. He's in my fantasy league. Let's see what he has to say. They had to take a quarterback at 3. As long as Stafford is healthy, the Lions will not draft that high again. Well, that's always the good point. Like when you get up that high, the value is quarterback. But the thing to me, Tim, we just talked about it for 10 minutes here. Because of the health status of Tua, I get why they didn't do it. Maybe they should have taken Herbert.
The problem is the Lions didn't want to draft a quarterback at all, whether it was in the first round to be a backup like the Green Bay Packers did or for any other situation. They're all aboard the Matthew Stafford train. And I think that a lot of them were, particularly in Allen Park, thinking, well, look at how well Matthew Stafford played before he broke his back last year. He was an MVP candidate, even though there's only one MVP candidate last year, and that was Lamar Jackson. And if he can just come back and play at that same level, then the Lions will be fine. And if you look at actually what happened in the game on Sunday, the Lions won. They as a team played well, but it certainly wasn't because of Matt Stafford. Not with his pass rating of like 80 or whatever against the Jaguars.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of Lion fans that are thinking that with the trading deadline coming up on the 29th, which is next week, Thursday, that maybe the Lions will be able to peddle him off to a team. But like the thing with Dak Prescott, if you don't even have to be a capologist, just look at it. You start thinking, if Stafford's cap hit's going to be $20+ million next year, there's no way that you can have another quarterback that's going to be making $20 million, or else your quarterback room's suddenly up towards $45 million. So if you're getting rid of Stafford, you're going to have to go the rookie route next year. So
yeah, and if you're Dallas, I wonder if you'd be interested in trading for Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Andy Dalton looked pretty good in relief in when he came in after Dak got hurt. He didn't look good in the game yesterday. And so if you think that you could have at least a quarterback controversy with some Fitzmagic, I wonder if they might be interested in trading for Fitzpatrick right now. I mean, he's not going to have a gigantic price tag.
No, I think it's a good point. Especially you get another week to play with if you're Dallas, to see what's going on in the putrid NFC East. Even though they lost, you could still, if you could find a quarterback. Maybe Dalton, with one game, he was so bad, though, like, when you watch them, you're starting to think the one thing is you look at those backups, and when you follow football a lot and you've never heard of any of the guys that they have in the backing them up, they're in trouble. So they could be looking for somebody. It's just not going to be Stafford. Like, no. What's the cap hit? Is it $30 million on Dak, and it would be $25 on Stafford? I mean, are they going to be paying their quarterbacks $60 million? I don't even know if that's possible.
Yeah, they probably have to do a whole lot of cuts. One guy that I think Lions fans should be proud of is, unfortunately, a Deep South Buckeye, Jonah Jackson. I was looking at CBSSports.com's top NFL rookies, or their NFL rookie rankings, and they ranked Jonah Jackson 8th, the 8th best rookie. Lions, of course, got him in the 3rd round. I believe they went down to about 25 rookies, and obviously Jeff Okudah was nowhere to be seen on that list.
Well, that hurts. Here's some more feedback coming in, this time from YouTube Live. And it is from Mark, who says, who cares if the two of them are out of the league by the time he's 30? Okudah won't even make it until he's 28.
He might not make it till 25 at this rate.
Yeah, Mark, that's a feedback. That's a live chat statement that hurts. Keith says, I'm surprised about Okudah's play, but he's been lionized already somehow so quickly. I think he's going to be good, though. Wow. Tua is 22. I'll take 8-9 years of him, similar to Calvin Johnson.
Well,
Roll the frickin' dice on a possible top 5 QB in this league, and he may not have issues long term with the hip.
Well, here's what I would say to that. I said he won't be in the league by age 30. That doesn't mean at 29 and 364 days he's going to be done. He might be done at age 26. Second of all, if you follow the Dennis Pitta timeline, Pitta was out of the league about 4 years after his first injury. So Tua might not make it until age 27 at this rate. So that's look, no one can tell when he's going to take another big hit, when that big hit is going to be, or if he will take a big hit. And perhaps his hip is going to be stronger than Dennis Pitta's. But if he follows the same track as him, then he could play very well and then miss an entire season. And then play very well again and then miss some more time and perhaps be done.
Perhaps Dennis Pitta's timeline, like you're talking about, but how about Dennis Fithian just figuring out that normally when I would have my iPad, I would look at this to look down at the live chat, but if I turn it, I can see the live chat on the side and I actually read it really well off the table here. So I've just learned that. So pretty exciting for me.
That's right. Brilliant for Dennis. All right, let's turn
Sits
the
in there
page.
perfectly.
Yeah,
turn it.
Let's turn the page now to the third chapter. And that takes us to the World Series. And this third chapter is presented by Collyde. And I want to share a little bit of information with you from our friends at Collyde, because Collyde is giving us a great opportunity for tonight's Game 1 of the World Series. It's a brand new free sports chat room that brings the conversation of the sports bars straight to your smartphone. Download the Collyde app and join watch parties for the biggest games and talk with fans across the country about the game. Over the weekend, I was in a Collyde party for Georgia versus Alabama, which is a lot of fun. I was also in some Collyde parties for the NBA Finals. You get to select Collyde parties that sometimes are hosted by celebrities like former NBA player Matt Barnes. That means you can chat with him during the game. There are comedians and more. That takes us to tonight, where you can download the Collyde app right now and you can join the watch party. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you on my phone. You can join the watch party. See, there you go. Hard to see on the phone, but you can join the watch party that's hosted by yours truly, me, and Dennis Fithian. That's the only place where we'll be taking your feedback and chatting with you throughout the course of Game 1 of the World Series. Just download the Collyde app, join the World Series Game 1 with Fifth Chapter Party, and you can chat with us during Game 1. Collyde, available on Apple and Android. Collyde, better together. So, Dennis, you got Game 1. It starts in just a few minutes. I'm excited for this series. We got the Rays and the Dodgers as usual. Two of the biggest storylines for the Dodgers are going to be, can the Dodgers finally win the World Series? And B, will Clayton Kershaw, one of the best regular season starting pitchers in baseball history, finally shine in the World Series? Dennis, what do you think about Kershaw, and what intrigues you about the series, and who do you have winning it all?
What intrigues me is that Kershaw is somebody that, for everything that he's done here, there's been no player that you can think of that has been that dominant in the regular season, but just doesn't have that splits when it comes down to the postseason, like he chokes or something. And it's just it's an amazing thing to watch year in and year out. And yet, here the Dodgers with the second highest payroll and everything. But I find myself rooting for Clayton Kershaw. I don't want to see sad Clayton Kershaw there after the fifth inning, after he goes 4 1/3, and gives up 6 runs. And I got to look into the dugout. They'll be showing him nonstop. And I just got to see him with that sad face. I hate to see that. So I found myself rooting for Clayton Kershaw. I think that, and the one thing about people that are analytically driven, they'll say, the postseason's got nothing to do with it. Everything's going to even out. Clayton Kershaw is going to be great. Wait to the major wager. I'm going to back that up. Like, I think, all things point here to Kershaw performing well tonight and really pitching well. But, he just has this thing. If it goes a little bit south, man, you can imagine the pressure. Even for somebody who's been here, all of this Hall of Fame, it's the biggest story about this game one. And the other, you got the Dodgers on one side with the gigantic payroll, and here are the Rays that are down there, 27th in payroll towards the bottom, and being able to do it with all these guys that come in. The pitching staff's fantastic. The guys that they've been able to find to put in this lineup like Arozarena, it's amazing. You really got to give it up. I feel like rooting from it's a classic underdog story to me, even though the players really, that's not an underdog, but just looking at the payroll, it's an underdog situation. So it's really compelling. I think the question you asked about who I'm going to pick, you know what? If the Rays pop the Dodgers tonight and they do it to Kershaw, that whole thing, then I think the Rays will win. So what I'm saying is I like the Dodgers to win it all, but I think they better win. I think they better win the game tonight.
Well, I saw that in the Collyde app, you've already left a message. You said the Rays are going to win the World Series.
I'm going back. After thinking over, I'm going with the Dodgers.
Okay. All right. I picked the Rays versus the Dodgers in the World Series before the season started, and I picked the Dodgers over the Rays, and I'm sticking with that. But certainly Clayton Kershaw is the big story in tonight's game, and I don't think the Dodgers are going to win tonight because of Kershaw. He's got a career 5.40 ERA in the World Series, the fifth highest since 1913, minimum of 25 innings pitched. He's just never been great in the playoffs, and he's usually pretty bad, including the World Series.
What about the analytics?
I get the analytics, but and there are two things about Kershaw that could affect how he pitches in today's game, and could differ from how he typically pitches. You look at how he's got that 5.40 ERA, and a lot of times that's because he's pitching on 3 days rest. When you go into the playoffs, oftentimes you pitch on 3 days rest. You want to get your best pitchers out there. He's not doing that this time, so that might lead you to believe that perhaps Kershaw would pitch better. But last week, he was scratched due to a back injury. Is he going to be overcompensating? Is he going to have to come out of the game early? Who knows, but that doesn't look good. I know Tyler Glasnow hasn't been good in the 2020 playoffs. He's got a 4.66 ERA. The difference is that these two teams treat their starting pitchers so much differently, because the Dodgers say, hey, we got a bunch of workhorses, including Kershaw. If he gives up 3 in the first 3 innings, we think he can work his way out of it. He might go 5 innings and then give up 4 or 5 runs through 5 innings. But with the Rays, the first sign of any sort of issue, especially if it's in the second time through the order, they're going to yank Glasnow, and they can go to their outstanding bullpen. So I think that gives the Dodgers, or I think that gives the Rays a big advantage going into Game 1.
Yeah, I root against the analytics when it comes down to second and third time through the order and everything, especially when a pitcher's really going. You feel like he's got it, and
but it works.
Well, it does, except in some of these big spots, it hasn't worked overall for the Dodgers when they've gone into this, and it's worked for the Rays here. But I think it's one of these things. If you get too analytically driven and you're like, no, we're just going to go out, even though when your eyes are telling you one thing. It's the biggest thing a manager can do is figure out when to take that ball from a starter. And you know what? Roberts, who had been really following all of that, he didn't his last time out against the Braves. I don't know if he was like, the hell with it. I'm riding some of my horses here. I'm not just yanking guys out because we're in this hole or whatever it was, but it started working. It was like, I think he shelved some of that stuff. So to me, that's the biggest thing. When these guys go out and get the ball, are they really just following, what the stats say second and third time through the lineup? Or are they watching their guys and taking a look at the fuel tank and everything else because it's on the biggest stage? Mm-hmm. I know people that follow analytics are saying, don't worry, it's got nothing to do with the World Series. Nothing comes into play there. It doesn't matter if you're in the first inning or ninth inning. All this stuff is the same. Those are kind of the things that fascinate me because people like to argue about that. And, when it gets to a bigger stage, and I think that in the ninth inning, if it was a one-run game, is a bigger spot than in the first inning if there's no score. And, the analytic people try to tell me that, that's not the case. It's about, who's up there and pressure doesn't mean anything in analytics, which, that's the part. And it's hard because it's hard to quantify. How are you going to put pressure in there? There's no little number that you can put on it. So the analytic people are like, they stay away from the pressure parts.
Don't forget to download the Collyde app to join Dennis and I for that World Series chat later today during Game 1. Game 1 about to start, so Dennis and I will be a little bit late to the party. But the other thing
late
that I think
is
that's right, fashionably late. Fashionably late. That's the key. The other thing that I think is interesting about this series is about what the Dodgers are going to do or should do about Randy Arozarena. He's been one of the biggest surprises. He's a rookie for the Rays, and in 14 games, he's hitting .382, a 1288 OPS, 7 home runs in 14 games, 10 RBIs. I think they should pitch around Arozarena. If I'm the Dodgers, I'm either intentionally walking or intentionally walking Arozarena every single time he gets to the plate, because I'm looking at the numbers and I say he's got 21 hits. The rest of the Rays have 72. He has 22% of the hits, and he's just one player. He's the only Ray hitting above 300 in the playoffs, and only Arozarena, Choi, and Margot are hitting above 225. If you take Arozarena out of the lineup, the Rays are just a 185 batting average team. If I'm the Dodgers and I've got 9 All-Stars, I got 9 players that are hitting better than the Rays' second best player, why not just walk him? Why not just make him swing at pitches out of the zone and say, you other guys, you get it done?
Yeah, well, the key to Arozarena is pitch to him when there's nobody on base. If you can get there, go ahead and challenge him. Now, if you get to later on in the game and, he's really handling your pitchers, you don't like the matchups or anything else, you want to free pass him at that point. But I'm not starting out, putting him down on first base, the first time up. I'm going to go ahead and let my guys dig in and go after him.
I just wouldn't challenge him. The one thing that I would say is that the Rays, they don't leave men on base for whatever reason. If they'll go 3-4 innings without putting a single man on base, and then they'll get 2 men on, and then boom, there's a 3-run home run. Like all throughout that Astros series, you saw the Astros leaving 10, 12 guys on base, out hitting the Rays by 5 and 6 per game. But then the Rays, they get their 1 or 2 home runs per game, and they get a 3-run home run and a solo home run, and win 4-2. So they're very efficient when it comes to their scoring. So I guess the last thing you want to do is put one guy on, because then of course a solo home run turns into a 2-run home run. But nobody's hitting outside of Arozarena and maybe Choi on this Rays team.
There you go. That's the kind of analysis you're going to get from Chap tonight during the World Series on Collyde. I'll be on there messaging away as well. So looking forward to that. Coming up for Game 1. Good
Download that app right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Doesn't cost anything, and then you'll see us on there, throwing out when they should take the pitchers out. What Chapman's going to tell you what pitches they should throw. It's going to be our. He already wants you to issue a free pass to Arozarena. It's like I can't wait. Let's go. All right, that gets us to the 4th chapter. This is usually my favorite chapter. It's because I introduce it. Man, I'm just going to be honest about that. And it gets us to Lions wide receiver Kenny Golladay, who made an interesting IG post after the game on Sunday. And I got to say, this is way out of character for Kenny G. Chap, where he.
Dennis?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That last part cut out. What did you say?
Oh, I said, where Kenny G came out and blasted the Lions. Oh, it says poor connection.
Yeah, all right. Well, I got you back now, and I just posted. I just put what he put on Instagram up on the screen so everybody could see. But got a picture of him after a catch. He's flexing, and he says, "This shit gonna cost you. Don't let that go over y'all head." And I think that obviously when you put something up there like that in a contract year or in a year when he could expect an extension, and he uses the word cost, he's obviously referring to wanting to get a contract extension and not coming cheap. Look, I get that he backed into the Pro Bowl last year, but so far this year he's been pretty good but not great. I mean, he missed the first 2 games. Then the 3rd and 4th games, he averaged less than 60 yards per game, but did have a touchdown in each of those games. And then 2 days ago, he had 4 catches, 105 yards against Jacksonville. So the first big game in terms of yards, he puts out that tweet I want to see what else he does before I determine what dollar amount I'm giving him. I'm not going to say, if I'm Bob Quinn, oh, wow, look at this. He put something out on Instagram after his first 100-yard game against a bogus Jaguars team. Oh, we better pay him, and we better pay him big or else we could lose him.
Yeah, like I'm sure I get it from Kenny Galladay's standpoint. He was going into the season, everybody was talking about getting his contract and everything else. And hey, here's Taylor Decker, he's cashing in. Here's everybody else cashing in the wide receiver market. I think he was shooting the moon, trying to get the up to 20 million or the number on his jersey, 19, and the Lions. I think with an extension where, hey, can we get a little bit of a deal here? Mm-hmm. And and Kenny G wasn't going to come in. He wanted more, and of course, he wanted more. But it's really out of character. He reminded me a lot, just with his demeanor and his comments, always interviews and things, like Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson really, after he was done, he started saying stuff. But not when he was playing. He's pretty quiet, unassuming. Player for the most part, didn't talk a lot of trash, team guy. And now here's Kenny G, talking trash to the Lions. One thing about the Lions is, they sit here, and when it comes down to contracts, it's a little bit like the game. Like, you win, you've done a good job. You lose, you haven't. With contracts, you work it out, or you try to play hardball, and you can stick people in franchises, and they can walk on you. Those are tough things to do, but it's a real bottom line, man. You either get the deal or you don't. And most of the time, with the Lions here, the problem is they've been such a miserable franchise, is that they can alienate the players, and it ends up and I'm not sitting in the back feeling like Rod Wood is some kind of genius when it comes down to the numbers, or Quinn, or anything else. So it makes it feel like they don't know what they're doing, even when they might know when it comes down to cap numbers.
And it seems like when guys sign with the Lions, they do so exclusively for the money. And what's Kenny Galladay doing? The Lions win a game. They get to 2-3, where you think he might be excited. Well, perhaps pumping the brakes a little bit, like Duron Harmon. But instead of him posting something about, hey, look, we got the win, we're coming back, believe in us, Lions fans, his first thing to do is to go on social media and start talking about money. I mean, when you think about the stereotypical diva wide receiver, he falls right into that. He has not 7 catches for $150, 4 catches. That's it, 4 catches, over 100 yards, but 4 catches, and he's already on social media talking about, give me my money, this bleep will cost you. I think if you're a Lions fan, you want to keep him, but you're thinking, who exactly are you? You're not DeAndre Hopkins. You're not Julio Jones. You backed into one Pro Bowl one time. You missed the first couple games of this year, and you win one game against the bogus Jaguars, and you're not being team first. You're talking about this bleep is going to cost you. If I'm a Lions fan, I'm not excited about. I'm a lot more excited about the post game reaction of Duron Harmon than I am about the post game reaction of Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, Keith says he should keep his mouth shut, but they aren't throwing the ball to Marvin Jones. Why aren't they throwing the ball to Marvin Jones? He's averaged 4 targets a game, 2 to 3 catches. It makes no sense. Yeah, well, I get the thing there, Keith. Like they got rid of Travis Fulgham because he wasn't able to, break into the roster or anything else. Like, how's he going to do it? Not with Galladay, not with Marv Jones Jr., not with the depth that they have at the position with Danny Amendola. But then Marv Jones Jr., like, you're thinking about this would be somebody that they could possibly trade, but he's not doing anything. So it's a good point by Keith.
Yeah, definitely appreciate all the feedback coming in on Facebook and on YouTube. Let's get real quickly to the major wager, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dodgers tonight. I'm going to put a big 175 on it because that's what they are, plus 175. And it just so happens that I'm plus.
I think it's minus 175, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Minus 175. I'm up 575, so it just works out well with my bankroll. That's why I'm taking the Dodgers minus 175 tonight.
Yeah, last Thursday I picked the Dodgers to beat the Braves and cover 1.5, and the Dodgers were starting Kershaw, and the Braves started some rookie I'd never heard of, and obviously because Kershaw started, the Dodgers lost, so I lost that one. But I've got the Dodgers losing this game just in case Kershaw gives up 6, and the Dodgers make a great comeback and win by 1 run. Give me the Rays plus 1.5 at minus 145 to take that 1-0 series lead. With that great pitching staff of the Rays, I wouldn't be surprised. And not just if they win, but if they lose, I mean, are the Dodgers going to blow them out? Potentially, but I will take the Rays plus 1.5. And I'll say this as a bonus. If the Rays win game 1, you can get some nice odds on the Dodgers to come back and win this series. The Dodgers at that point would be an underdog, and I'm picking the Rays to win this game but still lose the series.
Well, I think if the Rays win, I'm picking the Dodgers to win the series and picking the Dodgers to win tonight. But if they lose tonight, I think the Rays are going to win it. So I think the winner of tonight's game is going to win the series.
All right. Let's now turn the page to the 5th chapter, and that takes us to the NBA. And let's actually go to a tweet that was put out from Detroit news beat writer Rod Beard on the Pistons. Obviously, the Pistons have a lot of money under the cap to spend in free agency. They've got only $68.8 million on the books as of right now. 36.8 of that is going to Blake Griffin. So over half of their cap right now is going to Blake Griffin. But they got plenty of money to spend. And here's what Rod Beard of the Detroit News said about Pistons free agency. He said this yesterday. I'm no general manager, but if Christian Wood goes somewhere else and it's not a sign and trade, then yeah, I got nothing for you. Suffice to say, Christian Wood should be the Pistons' #1 priority in free agency. Dennis, you agree that he should be the #1 priority?
Well, I do, but it's going to come down to me. It comes down to the years. It's not as much as the money. Like, I'm not going over 3 years on Christian Wood. If somebody wants to go and give him some kind of 4 or 5 year deal at $15 million a year, I'm not, matching that. Would I give him, 3 years, 36? I would look at something like that, but I'm not. It's the years. I'm not going over 3 years. If somebody wants to give Christian Wood more than 3 years, have at it. The Pistons are like the Red Wings here. Let's not act like because they have cap space, they're going to make some kind of playoff push or something. Doesn't matter who they bring in.
What about Anthony Davis? He's a free agent.
Well, they're not. Let's talk about something in reality. Like if they got Van Vliet or something, is that going to push them where you'd say, I think they would be a top 4 team in the Eastern. If they got Wood and Van Vliet, they're going to be a top 4 team. No, it's not going to happen. So I want Wood. It's still a developmental guy. I know that this team over the next 3 years is going to be closer to the bottom than the playoffs. So give him some money, but don't go past 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about 3 years, 36. He's going to get more than that. We've talked about this in the past, but I think he's going to be getting a bare minimum of $15 million a year. I think he should definitely be the top priority. After that Drummond trade, he really started to take off. The Pistons were awful because they were 1-12 after the Drummond trade, but he was amazing. In February, 19.3 points per game, 9 boards a game, 39% from the three-point line. And in the 5 games in March before Rudy Gobert tested positive, 26.6 per game, 9.4 boards a game, 43.5% from beyond the arc. Rod Beard is right. He needs to be their top priority. I would sign him to a 3-year deal, 4-year deal. I don't know about that, but I'd give him $15 to $17 million a year. And if they do a sign and trade, I would want to get a bunch back. Maybe they could trade him to a team that has a top 5 pick, and let's just do a straight up swap. Christian Wood for that top 5 pick, maybe you bring back a bogus salary, and then all of a sudden you got the number 7 pick, and I don't know, the number 3 pick or the number 4 pick in the draft, and you could perhaps get yourself LaMelo Ball with the top 5 pick and Anthony Edwards, or LaMelo Ball and somebody else. Get yourself like what the Pistons did when they got Allen Houston and Lindsey Hunter.
Yeah, nobody's giving up a top 5 pick for Wood, any kind of sign and trade. You might be able to get at best a late round.
This is not a strong draft. Somebody might say, "Hey, give me a 20-point per game score."
I'll go out on a limb and tell you that that there's 0 chance that the Pistons will get a lottery pick for Wood and some kind of sign and trade. It's like who are we talking about here? Like this isn't. this isn't Anthony Davis or something.
Well, yeah.
Back off a little
Well,
bit.
Anthony Davis,
it's
that
fine,
was
you know
3
what I mean?
first-round picks and players.
Yeah, well, you might be able to. You might. 36 that I was talking about for 3 might be closer to 45, like you're talking about. But there's not a team out there that's given up a lottery pick to sign Wood and give him $50 million for 3 years. That would be surprising, shocking.
Well, I think he is right. The Pistons would have to do a sign and trade. They cannot just let him walk.
Yeah, well, the other team's going to be like, hey, you can take a bad contract. That's what you'll get in a sign and trade, which to me is okay. Bring in bad contracts. To me, I would I like Wood, and I don't mind paying for 3 years. But if you're going to get a sign and trade, get garbage. Just get big contracts. This team should be, eyeballing, the spot that they're in right now next year. Michael on the feedback says, this is on Facebook, no way the Pistons going to top 15 for Wood. All right, chap, you dug in, so we'll see what they end up doing with Wood. All right, we are off to Collyde and watch World Series Game 1. Join us there. We'll be messaging away. I'll be going for the Dodgers. Chap's going for the Rays. It'll be a lot of fun. We will see you there. If not, we'll see you back here coming up on Thursday on the Fifth Chapter.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Huh. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter. Huh.